So, with that being said, let's bring some transparency onto the table before I crack on with session mappings and what to expect. So, transparency wise, Friday, beautiful move. Delta. So if you look over here, Delta Law was responsive and a huge move, 370 pips. I held that initial trade from the Delta Low all the way to 4,500, 1,100 pips, and then few of my well-known individuals, people, friends, clientels, we caught longs from here too. Yeah, London Delta push, secondary attempt push, and then I did say keep an eye out on Asia because Asia's gonna pull lower. Reason being was unresolved inventory left behind by New York. So let's go over the current price action over here, current sessions. We are not far away from um, this area. Okay, so I would like to point out that we are in a multi-session unresolved inventory chain. Uh, so what I'll do is I'll just go over all the sessions that have left unresolved inventory. Starting with Asia. Asia left upside breaches. Okay, so here, what we can do is we could possibly use one of the tools to just make a note, or if you can make a mental note, that'll be great. Make a I usually have this sort of strong way of memorizing, so I'll just memorize this. Asia unresolved inventory, London unresolved inventory, New York unresolved inventory, Asia unresolved inventory, multi-session unresolved inventory. Now, London opens, Prince Delta, Discovery. Okay. Now, London fails here to complete Asia's inventory. Instead, what it does, it replicates Asia's move. You see? Yeah, yeah. Instead of using the delta to clear Asia's inventory, London replicates Asia's move. But it wasn't just London alone. If you look over here, and if we just zoom in, it was the overlap. So when NY clocks in, NY was the driver here. It wasn't London. London was simply just squeezing price. So London fails to complete Asia's inventory. Okay, and instead of using the delta to push higher, it leaves unresolved inventory. So London leaves unresolved inventory over here, 4,513, which Asia fulfilled today, early hours. Now, despite the delta being printed as well, okay, key distinctions here, the delta location. I would recommend that you make a note of where the delta is printed and located. So the delta was located over here, 1.18 area, and it still didn't turn around. Okay, when price returned, it still didn't turn around. So you have to, you have to. If you look back at my if you look back at my previous recordings, I did say that the 1.18 is a reaction level. That's all it is, and the 1.27. And I'll go into the deeper aspects as to why, so that you do get a general idea. Now, NY now inherits both of the problems over here. Okay. If we just get the fib from London low, London high, we can see NY run into the 1.27 here, and then started to retract into the 50 level. Pretty much, you know, a run into the 1 point, a breach below 1.27, 1445, and then a push into the 50 level. So now NY, obviously, also, when NY opens up and it runs into the 1.18 and 1.27, you want to understand that, obviously, just remind yourself that NY also needs to print its, you know, micro, breaches, first low, and the first high. So NY runs into the 1.27, clears out all the stops, if you want to call it stop, stop hunt, whatever you want to call it. NY pushes into the 1.27 and then it pulls back. I personally took longs from here, went into 50 level, closed out. Asia stopped me out, okay, which I'm gonna go over in a second. So now, if you look over here, Asia's unresolved inventory passed over to London. London unresolved inventory passed over to New York. Now New York obviously has to maneuver and try to pretty much resolve Asia's and London's, or it can set itself up for the next session and just pass over to Asia. And that's exactly what happened over here. So this gives us a clear inventory transfer narrative from session to session to session. Okay, you have to map this out carefully. Take your time. There's no rush. The question that I would, that I always ask myself is, which inventory is currently attracting price the most, and who has the priority? And obviously, I'll go into that as well in a second. So at the moment, you can see the market has demonstrated willingness by Asia to move higher. Okay, by simply, running into London's unresolved inventory over here. Okay, which was unfinished auction yesterday. Now we still have higher unresolved inventory, which becomes the next logical objective for us. Let me bring this back to us. It becomes a logical objective for us to pretty much just look at what the current market is doing, and see if it lines up with the session to session inventory transfer. We do have current session delta, London delta 945 over here, 945 bearish candle, bullish delta. I'm just waiting for this to turn around and pretty much run into Asia high, which since Asia has passed over to London, but so on and so forth. Now, another thing worth here mentioning is that the relationship between the delta candle and the inventory. So for example, London over here, it's completely the opposite. The delta location and the inventory, which is the breaches being printed, there are two different things. Okay, they are not the same. A delta location marker is where price must revisit in order to clear previous session inventory. Now price did revisit, but then time ran out, passed over to New York. Now New York resets the entire session. Okay, New York needs to continue figuring out, basically, in a nutshell, it needs to figure out, is it gonna accept the handover, and is it gonna pretty much complete London's obligation, or is it gonna, because now it's got Asia's obligation and London, so it's piling up. So what New York has done of it is smart. It pretty much set itself up for Asia. That's it. New York could have continued to push higher and higher and higher, but we can see that this is how session behaviors and the mechanics behind inventory transfers are happening on a daily basis. So when you understand this sort of concept over here, my friends, it's going to be a game changer for all of you, okay? Because now we know, all right, cool, Asia has pushed, Asia has pushed 600 pips, okay? Instead of me just trying to just short randomly out of the blue moon, or even off the 1.18 and 1.27, what I can do is look at what is pending here, okay, inside of the current session, and what is it really setting up towards. That's what I do. What I do is, I look at, obviously, you have to journal, you have to log, and you have to review as much as you can. So price is trading inside the delta candle. The first low sits at 9:45 and 10 o'clock. Breach 1 and breach 2. I've taken longs based off the breach 2 being a completed sort of print, and then price to push higher into unresolved inventory, here, this area. Now look, this is basically just, mapping out the entire, um, it's pretty much a roadmap for all of us, where rather than predicting or forecasting or trying to be right or even wrong, the mechanical approach is the approach, okay? And few objectives which are lined up for us, which is, if you look at, look, if you look at, hey, look, we've got New York unresolved inventory here, first low, 1600. We've also got Asia. We've also got Asia here, 333.45, unresolved inventory. We also got Asia over here as well, unresolved inventory. And now we've got the Asia and London inverse. We have delta printed. Price simply needs to revisit the delta candle if the move is genuine and if the move is true. Okay, so this is appealing, and it's, it will most likely be a multi-session play, because that's how the market operates. Multi-session swings, intraday into intra swings. Okay, the key focus here is not whether price is going to go up or price is going to go down. It's just, it's all about understanding, okay, that unresolved inventory gets passed over. Okay, so you are going to miss out on some huge moves if you don't stay on top of this. Now, obviously the market is in the process of, resolving the chain of unfinished business. Okay, so until the high inventory isn't completed, the major sort of drawn price remains the point of interest. Drawn price and then drawn price. So we'll take it as it comes. Just to put it out there for all of you, my friends, please, 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 don't rely on the 1.8 and 27 every single time. Okay, it's a reaction level. Now you want to observe how price is behaving around these areas. Once you're comfortable and you see it happen time and time again, you can start using it, and you can just rinse it out day in, day out. So keep it clean, obviously, keep it professional. Be on top of this. Please, please, please be on top of this. I sometimes wake up at 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning, and I'm just so clocked in, just waiting for, allowing the market to always allowing the market, because always allowing, let me finish, so yeah, might as well finish the sentence off. I'm always allowing the market to breathe and print, and also I'm breathing with it side by side. So instead of me trying to predict longs or shorts, what I do is I just simply observe whether, or if the market is running into this Asia high, or is it showing me some sort of signs towards this Asia low. You have to always allow the market to just reveal the truth, in order for you to really get closer to the truth. Just to top it off, we may push into 4,620s before starting before we get this sort of intermediate downtrend, if you want to call it a downtrend, before any of the sessions start to push lower into these into these levels. And yeah, that will be most likely the final downside pushes before we start that new rally into 5k, 6k and beyond. Okay, yeah, make sure you mark up the sessions. Before I conclude, close the day, not the day, close the charts, because I'm gonna go make some breakfast. I'm actually gonna go for a walk right now. CEVO so far declining to the downside. Price. So let's have a look. What can we see? What is building behind the scenes? So if CEVO is declining and price is pushing higher, CEVO is declining, healthy trend. Okay, cool. That's all we need to see. My friends, thank you for watching. Let's move on. Um, stay on top of all of this. Don't slack. Yes, you can have slack time. You can always, step outside of your comfort zone, the charts, whatever it may be, but don't slack in the markets. Stay on top of where the breaches are still pending. Here we've got two more breaches that are pending. Here we've got two more breaches that are pending. Asia and New York, two more breaches that are pending. Now you're not just gonna see price turn around right away. What you are gonna see is, if you look at the current session's first high, 815, yeah, line across are up. We have upside breaches pending. So breach 1 and breach 2 is pending. Okay. Now once we get those breaches, we can then wait for price to return here, 945. We can wait for price to return over here. Once price returns, most likely during New York session, observe how PA engages around, and then we can go shorts. We can target these levels here. If that doesn't obviously build up and something else starts to happen, which is the continuation, yeah, very simple. Hold the longs. Just hold the longs. That's all I can say to you. Hold the longs, my friends, into 4640, 4 hourly, 1.18. Okay. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.